So hello and welcome to episode 2 of the Latte show with myself, Andrew Byrne.
And again, myself, Anthony Byrne. Welcome back, lads.
So it's episode 2. Do you want to basically go over how much we appreciate everyone that listened in on the first episode?
Yeah, so obviously initially just a big thanks for the support so far on like the first episode. I think we're over 1,000 starts and something like, I don't know, 700 streams.
Yeah,
something crazy like.
Yeah, so we basically done
Keep
an
it
awful
up,
lot
lads.
better than we expected. So we'd just like to thank everyone that's basically decided we're worth listening to. And we'll get rocking. Do you wanna tell everyone where we are?
Yeah, so episode 2 is in, as you probably will see from the title of this episode, we're in the Thrive Cafe in Tullow, so we're not too far from home, only about 15 minutes down the road. And yeah, so it just goes to show that sliding into someone's DMs on Insta can get you a date, because Thrive's Cafe slid into our DMs and look, here we are. You know,
Yeah, they slid on. Was it Wednesday? They slid into the DMs.
They followed us, they liked everything. They were flirting with us all week then.
Yeah. They wanted us in, so we said, why not?
Why not support?
It's only
local.
down the road, first place to go. So what do you want to kind of topics do you want to cover today?
So I suppose like we can talk a little bit about. We were just many thanks to Oisin for having us in here. He actually made us some lovely coffee, so we're just going to have a quick mouthful of the Thrive coffee. But look, we were here earlier on, just a little bit of general chit chat about the place, and I think it'd be only right to start on the Thrive Cafe to give a bit of info and background on themselves there. Bit of advertisement as well, so all the followers get over here and have a cup of coffee, and Oisin's the master barista over here, so he'll look after you.
Yeah, so it's we basically done a bit of latte art there and different crack, and we got to know like how serious they are about coffee in here. They really put care and attention into it by the looks of it, but they're more into kind of the nutrition side of things and the health food stuff.
Yeah, so we were chatting to Oisin earlier and just getting a little bit of background on the place, and he was mentioning that the two ladies that own the place, that they really wanted to focus on the nutrition side, good food, good quality food, no processed food, kind of a sustainable way of doing things as well, like no waste, and actually all their desserts is actually sugar free as well. So if you're anyway kind of on a diet or a fifth fam or anything like that, it'd be a nice place to come for a brunch or even a sweet treat with a coffee,
And even like as I said, they opened in 2017, but I actually didn't hear about this place until the last year. And it seems to be really ramping up, because it took them a while to basically proper settle in, but they've really kind of boosted I suppose customers, and even since lockdown they've revamped the whole place. Oisin was telling us that they basically moved a few things around behind the counter, they moved a few tables outside, and they even threw in what's this yoke? They threw in basically a takeaway
window
unit.
So you come right to the window of the shop, and they have two little double doors, and it's very new, but basically during the day then, if you don't want to come in to a busy cafe, especially with Corona and all, it's quite handy. Takeaway coffee at the window and tip on then, so it's quite quick and simple, and a lot, especially these days, everyone likes things to be quick and easy. And one thing worth mentioning as well actually is just the kind of they are supplied, I suppose, by 3FE coffee, which just to get that in there as well, it's if anyone knows anything really about their coffee, that 3FE is one of the bigger brands in Ireland, and it's another reason to get down here and try it out.
Yeah, I suppose we'll go on to the shy talk then, will we?
Yeah, we can do, yeah.
Everyone loves the shy talk.
So any kind of thoughts on any news topics this week, Drew, or anything standing out to you?
I suppose there's a few.
Sorry lads, my mic fell there, so we had to kind of get cut off there. So I was just asking you about anything in the news this week to get the shy talk rolling.
Yeah, there's a few things like last week we were talking about Phil Hogan. Basically, the pressure was on him to get removed from office. Yeah. He's the EU. He was the EU commissioner, and basically because he was at that golf gate party. He basically, the pressure was put on him to resign.
So basically, because of our podcast, he got sacked. Really,
I wouldn't want to put that on us.
No, I'm messing.
So the hunt is on for another EU commissioner, and hopefully we get another Irishman in there. But what else? I suppose there's a big thing about, like, obviously with the coronavirus and everything, the pubs have been closed, and an awful lot of pressure is put on pubs. So there's a new support package came out for the pubs, but it's not going to save every pub. So there's still going to be pubs going to close down by the looks of it. But the reason they're not opening the pubs seems to be they feel like it's going to cause more and more congregation and more spikes, I suppose, in the virus. But at the moment, the main spike seems to be house parties, different things like obviously work environments and stuff. But there's like a tiny percentage of current virus basically spread through restaurants, and it seems to be mainly through staff who are obviously in close contact with each other. Just it's the nature of the job, but there's not really any proof that the restaurants or the pubs that are opening as restaurants have been causing anything.
Yeah, so there's no, and like you were saying earlier, I think in the UK, the decision, they were having a lot of problems with house parties initially. They were having to close down. April, May, basically, when we were all delighted that the UK were obviously doing worse than Ireland in the coronavirus, you know what I mean? And it's always a competition with them.
Yeah, and basically they were doing really bad and we were doing really great, and we were like, oh yeah, we know how to get our act together, but the UK doesn't. And one of the big issues with the UK at the time was there was a lot of people getting together for these huge house parties. And I remember seeing something from like Manchester Police or something. There was just like 100 basically house parties visited by police, attended by the joke was that it was attended by police, and I was like, the police are just rave monsters going to all these house parties. But basically they had a huge issue with house parties, and
they opened up the pubs. They've opened up the pubs
since, and there's no word about these massive house parties anymore. It's like it doesn't seem to be on the news agenda really anymore. So obviously, like, their coronavirus levels have really gone low for the population size they have. They've really got a grip of it, it seems. And whereas in reverse, when you look at Ireland at the moment, we're starting to see rises and rises and rises, and more of them are being connected to these house parties. But like, we're the only country left in Europe. I'm fairly confident we're one of the only countries left in Europe that hasn't opened pubs. We're seeing a spike, you know, and like you could see, let's say the pubs were open again. That's a controlled environment that people can go and have the crack, have a bit of a party, have a session, but keep it to 6 at a table, 4 at a table, whatever it is. Yeah, like similar to the restaurant.
Bring in the restrictions for going out for pints. Like, it's keep the same. Just open the pubs, let people have a few pints, and like, you know what your man Healy Ray said, like, you don't have to have a sandwich to
yeah, because like at the end of the day, you can't restrict house parties. Like,
it's too hard. Like,
you can't get obviously people aren't going to put measures in their own home, but if you're a licensed premises, you're going to put measures in your pub, because that's your livelihood. Like, so the only way you're staying, like, keeping open, your kids in school, keeping your kids in college or whatever, putting food on the table, is to make sure that these measures are in place and effectively like put there for the customers to not basically act the fuck around. Like, and when you're at a house party, it's like it's all guns blazing, like, you know what I mean? Like, no one's going to stop anyone from doing whatever they want at a house party, because it's like 20 people or whatever it is just chilling out in a house. But if the exact same amount of people were in a pub, they'd be forced to have these measures put on them, and they'd do it. Like, there's not an issue.
They'd do it if it meant that they could have their few pints. Like,
yeah, and then you have instead of being in a house drinking cans, you're in an actual pub,
which is quite a controlled environment anyway.
Yeah. So
And they can stop people coming in.
yeah,
They're like,
and,
oh well, we have 15 tables, like, and they're all full at the moment. Come back in an hour.
and at the moment it seems that they basically seem to have pushed it back because they wanted to get the schools open first, and they wanted to basically wait until the schools are open for a while to
Right.
see how the virus might be spreading with the schools open, and seeing if it's kind of possible to get the pubs back open. Basically, on the list of priorities for the government, it seems that the pubs are down a little bit, but on the 13th, it's basically on the 13th of the month, they're hoping to try and let pubs open and all the rest of it. But it seems like that's just going to get pushed back again, because we've been told that for months now, and you're going to get, like, it's probably, what is it, 6 months since, it's 6 months this weekend since the first coronavirus case in Ireland, and 2 or 3 weeks later all the pubs are shut down. You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
by the looks
that's
of it,
it's literally half their livelihood.
yeah,
for the year.
half a year's worth of money coming in, and like, what are they supposed to do? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And if they feel like they can open up in a safe environment, why can't they? You know what I mean? Like, it seems to be a bit ridiculous, and I think a lot of people are getting sick of these kind of measures really affecting their livelihoods and their lives, when they can't see a legitimate reason why, when you look across the world, all these other countries are taking another approach and have no issues with it. You know what I mean?
And the WHO, like the World Health Organization, they're the ones giving everyone the same advice, and then every country then is interpreting in their own way to try and do their best. But it just seems a bit, I suppose that's enough kind of serious talk, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to get that pub one out there, because
I think everyone will agree with that, because, like,
it's hard to know. Like, I don't know. There's probably people out there that don't agree with us and think pubs shouldn't be open because this, that, and the other. But like, you're not going to stop house parties. But house parties wouldn't be happening if the pubs were allowed to host these groups of
They
people.
might not happen. They still might, but because people are now having great crack at them, and
It's not going to be the same extent, though. Like, I really don't think so.
Yeah.
And then they were talking about calls for like off licenses to not be allowed to sell beer then for a while, and all this sort of crack. It's like, just figure out what will work and what will make people happy, and people will stick to the measures that you put in place.
Yeah.
But at the moment, there's measures in place for house parties that can't really be policed, so at least the pubs can actually be policed.
Yeah, no, 100% agree. 100% agree. So the next topic that we could go on to for a bit more light-hearted stuff is just stuff about our own, kind of what's going on at home. Any personal things happened this week? Any crack?
A bit of personal news. Moving house next week. So I'll be basically, this week I'm moving house to another spot in Dublin. So hopefully Dublin doesn't go on to lockdown. So I'll be able to sign the out lease and get the deal over the
line.
road. Yeah, over the line.
When are you moving in?
Tuesday is like the official day, the first basically. But hopefully we can move in that night and get the internet stuff sorted for working from home then within a couple of days.
Yeah, that'll be a hiccup, alright.
Yeah, but
Have you any? I suppose everyone will have anyone that kind of moved out for college, or anyone that moved out kind of for work or anything like that, like, will have their own stories about their first college experience. Have you any stories like that?
we basically spent 2 months, basically me and two of the lads spent 2 months looking for a place, and we were just flat out on daft just going to viewings, like 3 viewings a week, and just no one was picking us, and we didn't know what was the issue, like. But obviously, like, I don't know, 3 young lads in their 20s or whatever, landlords might feel it's a bit dodgy or whatever, but we said clearly, young professionals,
I'm sure they believed you.
looking for a bit of a house to live in. But yeah, we came across a few very strange houses that, like, on the outset looked great, decent price and all the rest, but when we arrived we were just like, right, this is not it. But there was one house in Drumcondra where there was just the dodgiest landlord. What's your man's name? Do you know your man? years ago, Naked Camera.
Oh, PJ Gallagher.
PJ Gallagher, but he's like character with the newspaper.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whistle guy. So basically, we came across a man who was he had the exact same voice as that lad, and he also was as dodgy a character as that lad as well. But we basically arrived to this apartment complex in Drumcondra, and we were like, right, trying to have a look for this particular block to see where the house was. And we just seen a big queue of people coming out from a door, all masked up, 2 meter distance from each other, all that sort of crack. So we're like, right, this is obviously it. So we parked up, and I didn't want to park basically anywhere because like all the spaces were residents only. So I seen a taxi car was just parked on double yellow lines, and I was like, right, I'll park in behind here. And we're obviously standing in the queue over there, so if anyone comes around to like basically give us a fine or something, we'll just run over, get the car and move it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we were looking at this car and looking at the queue, and we were at the very back of the queue. We arrived right on time, but everyone else seemed to arrive maybe 20 minutes before us, and they were queued up ready to rock. But yeah, as the queue was slowly going, we started to notice that the actual flat was on the top floor, and the way it was working was because the door was locked, you had to wait till the person ahead of you opened it and left the door open for you to get through, and then you'd get through, close it behind you, and then you'd go up and have your go.
Yeah.
But when the person ahead finished viewing and were on their way down, the landlord was like sitting at the kitchen table, hanging out the window of the top floor, and he was like, all right lad, he basically was like, all right, you can come on up there now, yeah. And basically, that's my Dublin accent, by the way, I don't know if it's any good, but yeah, he was just this dodgy looking character. I don't know, he could be grand,
Could be sound lad. And you're dogging him.
Yeah, dogging him into the ground. But basically, yeah, we just started making jokes about this lad, thinking like, Jesus, this lad has the life. Spending his like the middle of the day, he's just tipping up, calling people to come up, view this house that he has, and then get like $2,000 off them every month. And from there on, like, but yeah, so we were chatting away, laughing away. Just like it took us about 45 minutes just to get from the back of the queue to our go. But yeah, we went up the stairs anyway. And the first dodgy thing about it was there was a pair of shoes just outside the front door, just sitting there. I was like, this is hardly the landlord's fucking shoes, just sitting. You didn't want to bring them in.
Out in the hallway, like?
Out in the front hallway. I was like, right, this is like dodgy number one. Like, but opened up the door, and the landlord, you could see from where the end of the hall, the landlord sticks his head around from the kitchen with a piece of blue, like industrial cleaning paper.
Yeah.
He had a piece of that over his mouth and nose, and we had our masks on or whatever, and he had that over his mouth and nose, and he goes, well lads, are yous working? The first question out of his mouth was, are yous working? I was like, yes, like we said that in the fucking yoke, like, but he was like, yeah, good lads. And is there supposed to be 3 years? I was like, oh no, like one of the lads, basically he couldn't get off work, that whatever. So he's like, oh yeah, no problem, yeah. And he takes the thing down from his mouth and he goes, by the way lads, don't mind the mould in the bathroom there. We're like, what is this lad at? And he goes, that'll wash off with a bit of water, and I got the painters coming in and they'll sort it out as well, but I haven't got it sorted yet, but I'll get it done. I was like, right, you can't just wash mould off and it'll be grand, like that's not how it works, like. But so I was like, right, the mould's probably not that bad. So I tip in anyway, and there's like an ensuite in one bedroom. I just walked into the bedroom, and it's the strangest thing going to house viewings where there's people like still living there. Now the people weren't in the house, they were obviously off.
So you were going through their room, like?
I'm going through his room, and there's picture frames of people like hanging out on a night out and all this sort of crack, and I was just like, this is just weird. But it was a nice big old room. I was like, grand, I'd stay here. Little ensuite. Walked over to the ensuite, and my God, looked up, and the whole roof was just black with mould. And it was like, it's basically the shower was causing condensation.
Because there's no,
and there was no real way for the steam or whatever to go, and it was just bad planning or whatever it was.
oh
but
my god,
the whole roof was covered in mould. And so I tip out then. I was like, Jesus. I was like, oh, Sheen, the mould's bad in there. Like, and he was like, oh, you should see in there. And there's basically the main bathroom. I walk in and the exact same thing. Just the way the whole place is designed. Mould everywhere. I was like, you're not washing that off anyway. So we're tipping around the house. And it actually was like a really decent apartment other than that. And so...
and he was charging $2,000 a month.
Oh yeah, the guts of it anyway. And I basically was like, right, this is actually not that bad. And I was like touching it, and I was like, whatever about the mould, but this house is actually decent.
That's the desperateness, how desperate you must be when you're looking for a house in Dublin.
Yeah, I was like, we've been looking for 2 months. We need to find somewhere. Like, so I walk into your man anyway, sitting up at the kitchen table on the phone or whatever, still hanging out the window. And I say to him, well, how's it going? Have you many people in here? Just plumosing him a bit. And then he's chatting away to us. And he goes, where are you working, lads? And I was just like, what? I was like, oh, we're reporters, we're journalists, like working in the media. And he goes, right, yeah. Are 3 as journalists? We're like, yeah, 3 of us. And he goes, that's grand, yeah. Because, like, there's no point you telling me your names and that you're interested here and that. Just text me on and say, we're the 3 journalists and we're interested in the house. Text me in the morning or whatever. The last lads work for Irish Water and that's how I remember them. I was like, what sort of crack is
Landlord,
this? Like, yeah, I was just pure dodgy.
If he's there, like, there's probably hundreds like him.
Yeah. And sure, like, right, we were the last lads and he just says, tell us you're the last lads and you're the 3 journalists and I'll remember yous. And I was like, grand, sound. So we're like, right, good luck, we'll text you in the morning. Never text him again, but we were like...
He'll hear this now and he'll be like, those little bastards.
Yeah. And we were like, right, we walked downstairs and we're just laughing. We're just like, Jesus Christ. And he was like at the top of the stairs then after us, he was leaving as well. And we walked down to the bottom of the stairs and out the door we went and we looked and I was like that man, like, how much are you betting that lad's the taxi man, like, that we parked behind? And like, we were walking along and all you hear is click click and he turned he clicked the taxi
so
on.
He lobs it up onto the double yellow line.
Yeah, just a dodgy man. But we got into the car anyway, and then I looked into the back of the taxi, and there's just a load of plants, and I was just like, this is the strangest man to exist. But of course he's a landlord, like. But but that was that story anyway. I never text him again, but we got a place anyway up in Donecarney, so that was ideal. So we hope to be moving.
That mold story actually reminds me of a mold story of my own from college.
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone has a mold story there somewhere in the back of the pocket, but
I think mold is just I don't know how
somebody's college and somebody's apartment, somebody's college accommodation just weren't designed properly, I don't think, because we had a spot up in Athlone, is where I went to college, and one of the lads I lived with, Shawnee, had, like, my room was across the hall from him, but whatever way the sun hit my room and the ventilation was much better, like, my room was fine, no mould, but his room was disgustingly full of mould, like, to the point where he was sick from it. Like, the doctors told him, you're fucked from the mould, like, you may wash the mould off the walls. Like,
I didn't realise mould could make you sick, because I was saying to Ushin afterwards,
inhaling it, there's stuff off it or whatever.
Yeah, I was saying to the lads afterwards, I was like, lads, I know there's mould in the bathroom, but like, the price of this place is probably the best we've seen and it's good location. I was like, I'd deal with mould for a year, like, I wouldn't mind it. And then they were like, there's no way. And I was like, eventually I was like, alright, fine, like, yeah, it is a bit of a kip, like, but yeah, then like, I didn't realise that could actually make you sick.
Yeah, like, because our rooms had like an ensuite in them as well, like, so it's similar problem. Steam had nowhere to go, and like, we were on the bottom floor as well, like, and where we were living in Athlone, like, it's dodgy out, like, it was down the end of a fucking, like, it was purpose built for students, but it's down the end of a cul-de-sac and like ideal for burgling, like. So we were on the bottom floor, two flats, and like, if we wanted to open the window for the day to air out the room, we had to be there in the house, like, or in the room. So it wasn't ideal. Like I remember one night, Shawnee comes into me. He's like, I think I'm going to die in that room if I don't. It's too cold. So I had this savage big warm blanket, like, and I put it over him. He got into bed. I put it over him, tucked him in all around like a little cocoon. And he woke up the next morning and goes, I don't think I'd be alive today if it wasn't for that blanket. Oh God.
So what was making the room so cold?
I let him keep the blanket after. I think that was a cold house anyway, and the heating only came on. We couldn't control the heating.
Oh.
So the landlord or whoever owned the properties like had it on a timer and thought it would be sufficient, like, but sure it wasn't, like, but sure students just, they'll be alright, like, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which we were, like, sure, like the amount of students houses I've been in, and you wear a hoodie to bed if you're cold, like, or you never an extra blanket.
Even like sure, when I was in first year, I was in student accommodation in DCU, and there was like slugs coming in through the bedroom window, or little.
I had that as well, yeah.
I don't know, like, how did it get in?
I don't know.
Like the whole window be closed, and there's like slugs getting in.
You see a big line of slime along the carpet.
Yeah.
From their journey through the night.
Yeah, and then you'd see them then trying to sneak in somewhere, and you're like, yeah, I got you, bitch. But yeah, and then we used to get little fucking horrible little wood lice and everything, and it was just rotten. I'm sure, like the room was clean, like, you know what I mean. So it was literally just the way the building was, and it was an old building as well, like. But yeah, but like I think housing in general, I think can be an awful lot worse than what we've experienced, like.
Yeah.
Because I've seen so many pictures online and stuff.
Sure, remember my first room in my very first accommodation in Athlone.
Athlone. How long did you last there?
Only one semester.
Yeah.
I was depressed off my head, and I was like, I'm quitting college, like, this is not what I wanted it to be. But
you found that yourself.
Huh?
You found that place yourself.
Because we went looking way too late, and myself and one of the lads, they went up from Hackstown, but luckily I met a few lads in my course that played football and were on the same football team and all, and like they convinced me, like, to basically just, even if I have to, you know, like, live in that spot, like, I can sleep on their couch, or, you know, like, and then eventually I got moved down with a few of the girls in my course, like, so that was grand, thank God. But like, I was this close to just like, this is not for me, I'm not living here anymore. Yeah. Basically, to describe the room is if you were to the room was the size of maybe 2 mattresses in an L shape, maybe 3 mattresses in an L shape. So the narrowness of a single mattress was like the little kind of first part of the room. It was like an L-shaped room.
There's basically enough room for the door to swing open, and that was about it. And my mattress was like just barely about a foot up off the ground, in the corner of the L-shape, and the corners of the mattress were coming up. Like, the mattress didn't even fit in. The mattress was too long for the width of the room in that section.
Yeah.
And there was no area in the whole room that you could actually fit a mattress other than like there with the mattress curling up at the end.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous.
It was 55 a week, right? And when I rang the landlord to tell him I was leaving after the first semester, he goes to me, is it the price? I could do it for 45 a week. And I was like, no.
So what's that work out
as? Not the price. 45 a week is nothing. It's
180 euro a month
for a room. Like, what are you paying in Dublin?
At the moment, 850. Like, the goods like over grand when you put the bills and all together. Like,
yeah,
and like, that's like just for a regular double room.
I said to him, no, I can't. And actually, it's a funny story about that landlord is he was very religious. He had these little cards of Jesus all around the place. And he asked us before we went in, like, do you drink, lads? And me and the other lad, like, his name is Darren, we were like, no, we don't drink. And that was grand anyway. Sure, the boys that actually lived there end up growing and selling their own wheel. They were selling yolks and everything.
They were pure, like when you think of your stereotypical stoners, they were, like, I remember we went up.
If you were to imagine Peter Griffin and Quagmire in human form, and imagine that they were these gamers that loved weed and sold drugs and just
chilled out, didn't go to college, right?
Never went to college.
Yeah, but I remember we went up that day, like, you were moving in, and I was just like, this place is a kip. And I was like, if I'm in a place like this, because I didn't know at the time where I was going to be, and I was like, if I'm in a place like this, I'm going to fucking hate it, like. But we were just showing face to you because we were like, we can't make Anthony think this is a kip because this is where he has to stay. So we were like, the kitchen just had like stuff everywhere, wasn't it? There was like
a table and chairs and a couch, and the counter was like a L shape, but it was a very, very small room as well. Like.
Yeah, and the two stoners were just like chatting shite, trying to be really sound and all, but they were just like obviously like fake. It was like, you lads are like just not who you say you are. You could sense a mile away that the two of them were just absolute wasters. But sure, look,
they weren't arseholes. Like, they weren't unsound. They weren't my cup of tea. Like, but
they were just
luckily I fucking trained on the football team, and that's how I met the few boys that I basically ended up hanging around with for the rest of college, and as well as lads in my course. Like, but that was my first little stint out of the house. I remember Laura was saying when Licky drove off.
Sorry guys,
pause it there, lads, just because the camera's gone off. So welcome back after the video break thingy or whatever.
The video.
I just thought
keeps messing up.
We probably have enough shy talk there around your new house and housing and stuff like that. So, like, what you were saying during the week that Ciara's starting driving, your girlfriend Ciara's starting driving soon and doing all her lessons.
She's been starting her lessons there over the last couple of weeks now, since obviously coronavirus hit. There was no lessons going on, so once that started ramping up again, she's started to get her driving lessons in. So yeah, she's on like two lessons now, and she's been doing loads of driving, basically practicing or whatever. But it just reminded me of like the different times that when we were like, because we have I have my license ages, and you got your license a couple of years maybe after.
I have 3 years in January, so not too bad.
Yeah, and I think I'm 6 years now at this stage.
Yeah,
6 years.
A bit behind you, like.
Yeah, and the reason, obviously, the reasons we'll get into, but at the time, I just found it was quite funny. So basically, I did all my lessons in Carlow town, and that was all grand. Done 12 lessons there, and your man from what was it? Aviva. Your man from Aviva was really solid. Good old instructor and all, but I
don't know if we should be advertising Aviva now, considering
you're the insurance king.
I'm only messing.
Yeah, insurance king Anto is not happy.
Oh, there are other insurance companies out there, just to let you know, guys. Wexford based ones.
Is that what it is? So basically, I was basically booking the test, and I was like, the tests in Carlow are not for another long while. And then Dad basically got into the ear, and he goes, sure, I did my test in Gorey. Anyone who does it in Gorey finds it way easier than in Carlow.
Gorey's handy. You're guaranteed passing Carlow. Them testers over in Carlow are bollockses. They won't pass you.
Yeah, he basically got into the ear and said Gorey's way easier to do the test than in Carlow.
And he convinced you?
He convinced me. So I was like, alright. I've never driven in Gorey ever at this stage. So I clicked. I was like, I'll do the test in Gorey. Sure, I've got all my lessons done. I drive the whole time. I should be grand. But sure, anyway, I so basically, coming up to the test then, I was like, right, need to get a couple of lessons in just so I know the lay of the land of Gorey. And I did one mock test like the week before. Did it decent enough, and he basically just took me around the different areas that you do, the different like reverse round corners and the different stops that are hidden stop signs and stuff like that. And that was all grand. I was like, yeah, solid enough. Like, and then the morning of the actual test, I had a mock test as well, and I basically failed the mock test miserably and was so nervous basically for that entire mock test that your man was just like go in and do your best, but I don't think you're ready and all this crack. And I was just like, alright, yeah, sure, look, what can you do? Like, I know I messed up. And then I pulled out at a roundabout when there was a car coming around, and there was just different things, and like
that you would never do,
but there was just different things that because of the nervousness that was going on, I just never do it normally, but because it was the big day. So basically I went into the main test, and your man was sound out, basically took me through the
few questions at the start.
A few questions like what are all these different things in the engine. I was like, that's the I was like,
Water?
at one stage, I was like, I don't know. I actually didn't know what it was. It was like the dipstick or something. I don't know what they asked, but he was just like, all right, we'll move on. So he got into the car anyway and drove on. And the whole test was going solid enough. There was only a few little errors. You know, there's different stages.
Little marks, yeah.
Yeah, and there was a few different ones. And he took me out the back road then, the kind of bypass road of Gorey. And on that road, you can go about 100 kilometers an hour. So, like, they always say, like, get up to the speed limit, so that they don't say you're going too slow or whatever.
Yeah.
So I got up to speed limit, and he was like, okay, now take the right up here. It'll bring you back around into Gorey. And I was like, okay, but I've never been on that road ever. So basically, to turn right, you have to indicate right into like this middle box lane. And that middle box lane was very long because there was like some sort of a garden centre or something that you could turn into as well.
As well, yeah.
So I was like, there must be another turn down the road that he's on about. Then when I realised, I indicated into the box very late and looked in. I thought I'd done it all okay. So I basically was a bit late going into the box, but I checked the mirror, indicated in, made sure there was nothing there. Slowly moved in and then came up to a stop and turned down the road. It was grand. That was down like the last 2 minutes of the whole test, right? So I went down anyway, and basically he brought me up to the room and he was just like, well, just say you passed anyway, so congratulations. So I'll just go through all the marks. You know they do that.
Yeah, and then you're like,
congratulations.
Your first sentence was fine. I don't need to know anything else.
It's like, yeah, you passed, and then I'll take you through all your mistakes. It's like I don't care about them anymore.
I'm going to spin the wheels out here.
Yeah. But he was like, he was just like, so basically, you probably know what I'm on about, but there was one error you made. I didn't bother putting it down for you because you won't make it again, will you? So basically, he explained to me what my error was, and apparently it's like a red mark if you don't enter. It's an auto fail if you don't go into the box early enough on a 100-kilometer-an-hour road. Because he's like, the guy behind you, you might have a driver behind you who zips into the lane and tries to fly past you, and if you go to indicate in late, you might knock into him and cause a crash. All that sort of crap.
Yeah.
So it makes sense why it might be an automatic fail, but he was like, you done an alright job on saving yourself.
You won't do that again.
And he goes, you won't ever do that again. And I explained like why. I was like, I went in late because I didn't realise that was the right you were looking for, all that crack. I made excuses, but I didn't need to make excuses because it passed me anyway.
My test was an absolutely outrageous. Like,
yeah.
So like I got away with murder. Like, so
where'd you do it?
I did it in Carlow. I did it like a couple of years after you. But we can get into that if you want. But that just reminded me of my test. Like, but basically, I drove over. My first test was due in December, but there was snow that morning in my test, and there was snow all either side of the road and ice and all. It was really cold, and like driving over to the test centre, like I know you're not supposed to drive over on your own, like, but I drove over on my own, and even the car park in the test centre in Carlow was ice, like. Yeah. So I drove into the car park. It was nearly sliding around the car park, pulled in and walked in, and there was a man standing there saying all the tests are off today, these will be rescheduled. And I was like, you could have fucking texted me after driving over in the snow, like, in the bad weather, like. Yeah. And then anyway, it got rescheduled for exactly a month later, and I went over this time and it was grand, and so went in, waited, and your man kind of said, right, come on. So he didn't check me tyre. He didn't ask me about the tyre depth or anything like that. He didn't look in the engine. He didn't test the horn at start. He didn't do anything. Just hopped into the car. Alright, and he was like, right, so we'll go out here and go left. So I went up the road towards Adelaide there. I think it's Adelaide there in Grey Cullen. Or Little, either one. And grand, driving away. And he was like, right, pull in here. And that was grand. We did the turnabout or whatever. Yeah. So I always remember when I was being taught, like, oh, you don't have to do a 3-point turn. They changed the name because you could do it in 4, like, as long as it's safe and you're doing it properly, it's fine. So I think I did it in 4, like, but I only had a little Citroen at the time. It was only a little 1-litre Citroen, so I probably should have been able to do it in 3, but I was trying to do it real perfect, like. So anyway, that was grand. He actually got on to me at the end of the test about how many times it took or whatever, but I was like, great. But we came to the hill start, right? And it was just like an estate kind of hill start, and then you come up to a T junction, About halfway up the road, we did the hill start and pulled away, and just at the T junction there was this big massive camper van sitting up at the T junction.
Yeah.
And like it seemed like someone got out of it, so I pulled up behind it, and it seemed like it was going to pull into the junction and turn in right or left or whatever, but it wasn't moving. So
that was 5 minutes for you anyway.
It wasn't moving, no. But your mano goes, just give him a little honk at the horn there and let him know you're behind him. Like he might not have seen you in the mirror. And sure, little did he know, and I knew fucking well, the horn in my car wasn't working, and that's an automatic fail. If he had tested that before he left, because you're not supposed to drive a car that has no horn on it, apparently. Yeah. So anyway, I pressed it, pretending that I thought it was going to work. Didn't work, and I was like, oh no, it's not working. And he was like, okay. And I was like, well, I just go around him. And he was like, if you want. And I was like, you fucking cunt. So I was like, oh fucking, I'm failed now. I did everything right, I pulled around it, and he asked me to go left, so I had to go out around the fucking front of the camper van and go left. And then I did my reverse around the corner, and I reached over and did the mirror down to the curb or whatever, and drove off and didn't put the mirror back up. So every roundabout that I went into after that, I clearly didn't check my mirror because I wouldn't have been seeing anything. And then I got back and he's like, oh, you passed anyway. And thinking back, like, I should have failed that with flying colours, like, but I got away with it.
Your man must have been
But
hungover.
during the test, actually, he had this little iPad that he was ticking off on.
Yeah.
And he folded, about 10 minutes into the test, he folded the iPad up and put it up on the dash and just kind of sat there with his arms folded, just kind of. And I was like, either he's seen something. I'm just going to pause for the.
There's an old tractor there.
Old tractor. But yeah, either he's seen something terrible, and he was like, this has not passing, or he's like, fuck it, I'm just going to pass him. It's the third lad in today, and I've failed the first two.
Oh yeah, I would have thought that he would have thought straight away, like, oh, red mark, failed. Let him do the half an hour, and then we'll say, all right, good luck.
You
see you in a couple of weeks.
Good luck, yeah. But yeah. He was quite an intimidating man, but sure, he went into detail then. He goes, oh, you passed anyway, but you should be doing this, should be doing that. And I was like, I don't care what you're saying to me right now. I've passed. I bought the end plates on the way.
Yeah, your man actually, because I was, like literally, I had my test booked for a week after the end plates came into legal, like, to be legal for the first 2 years of full licensed driver or whatever. So your man was like, oh yeah, you passed, here are your end plates, because there was no end plates really in the shops at the time.
Yeah.
So like they have to make sure you're getting end plates.
Yeah.
So I didn't even have to bother going to get end plates. He's just like, oh, there are your end plates, good luck.
I stopped in the petrol station on the way over and bought them, and your mum was like, oh, did you pass your test? And I was like, no, I'm actually just going to do it there now. She's like, oh, very positive.
That is confidence.
I actually, to be honest, it was only because I meant to buy them on the first day that I went over in December. And I just thought of it when I was driving by, I'll go in there and get them. And maybe it was just like a little kind of positive thinking kind of a thing, like, but yeah. Do you
want to go through why we didn't do our tests around the same time and why you were a couple of years after me?
I think, well, it shouldn't have been a few years, to be honest, out of laziness probably as well, but initially when we were doing our lessons, we were doing them at the same time, different. We just have an hour each, like one of us to kill an hour while the other one was doing the lesson in Carlow. And around the 10th lesson, classic Anto, I got injured, like, so I was playing football and I went in trying to shoulder to shoulder with a fella to a 50-50 ball, and like it was a fairly big enough hit, like we were both sprinting as fast as we could, and my elbow actually dug into my side.
So basically it was shoulder to
just
shoulder,
underneath my rib cage,
and your right elbow or whatever just went straight in
just underneath
the ribs.
Yeah. And so initially, like, I got a fairly winded, like, and a physio came in and I was like, oh, it's sore, like, yeah, it's sore, like, but it's probably just winded, like, so it was grand. And then after the match I was like to the physio, it's fairly sore, like, and he was like, you probably bruised a rib, or, you know, you might have cracked the rib. It might be worth going for an x-ray if it doesn't improve in a couple of days. Anyway, that was grand, but I was in so much pain then. The outlet collected me from Carlow after the match, and I was lying across. I remember he had a van, but there was 3 seats in the back as well as the 2 seats in the front, and I was just lying across the back seats in absolute agony. Like I'd never felt as much pain. And in fairness, I hopped off the painkillers that night and it was not too bad. But actually the next day I went to the toilet, just went for a piss, and it was basically blood, so blood in the urine. So I just goes into the sitting room. I went in. I basically had a period. Yeah, I know, that's a bit dirty, rude, but anyway. But I went into the outlet in the sitting room. Then I was like, I was kind of laughing because I was kind of in shock. I was like, I'm after pissing blood, like. And he was like, are you? Fuck off. And I didn't flush it because I knew he wouldn't believe me. I was like, come on in and look at it. And he was like, I don't have to fucking look at it. Yeah. So I went in anyway. He followed me and he was like, fuck, that's a good bit. He was like, you probably fucking, that'll probably wash through the system there. Probably a bit of internal bleeding, you'll be grand, right? So he's like, give it a few days and if it doesn't go away. And anyway, 2 or 3 days later, it still was the same. And he was like, right, Mum was like, you may go to the fucking doctor. We didn't tell Ma about this because she wasn't in the house at the time. And she was like, you may go to the fucking doctor, sure, with that. And I went to the doctor anyway, pissed into one of them fucking cups for him. And he was like, oh, that's red. Go to the fucking hospital, to the emergency room. Like. Anyway, I went to A&E and I ended up being in the hospital for a week, bed rest. They just flushed water through me so the actual diagnosis was a torn kidney. I had to get like a CT scan or whatever, and it was just a slight tear in the kidney, bit of internal bleeding. But I was on bed rest for 2 or 3 weeks, so I missed the last 2 lessons. Yeah. And then that kind of led up to college then. So
I obviously hit 12 lessons at that stage. And yeah. You were on the 10 and you couldn't get the 12 in, I suppose. Yeah,
so that kind of just put a pause on it. I wasn't then arsed because I was in college and different things, and I didn't have a car to drive, so I didn't necessarily feel like there was any rush. And sure there was a point there where I didn't even have my provisional license or insurance, and I was driving your car over to knock it back, like just for practice. So I shouldn't say that, but anyway, it's too late now.
No, you're only lying.
I'm only messing. But if I
making yolks up.
Yeah, another thing I'm messing about is for a good year or 2 I used to drive your car over and back without a license or insurance.
But what did then for about a year or 2, what did Darren McGrath call you?
Oh yeah. So I got a nickname from this kidney injury. At the time, the Irish rugby manager was Declan Kidney. So I walked into the Magsies, the McGrath's house there, and Darren was like, well, Declan. And I was like, who's he fucking talking to? Declan Kidney over there. So I got called Declan for a while, but that didn't stick, thank God.
Anton Deck. But yeah, Declan Kidney. I think Darren still call you Declan every once in a while. Just when he remembers, he just like, hey, that's
remember
funny.
That time I called you Declan Kidney?
Yeah, that's quite a funny lad. But I suppose that's about it for the old the driving, the dream of driving. I suppose.
I'm sure everyone will have their own personal stories for driving lessons and their own test and the nerves and all that. Like
that's thing, like
a lot of people probably were way better in their test than I was and failed.
What are the odds of like the 2 of us getting through on our first go, like as well?
Poxy.
2 different driving like centres and everything.
I'd say it's a bit of luck, like.
Yeah.
And maybe if you walk in and like you look like you're confident and you know that you're not going to be. And when you're behind the wheel, if you're kind of confident when you're changing every gear and all, and you know that they look like you're kind of well able to drive, the instructor would then immediately get off the defence
just relax
and
a bit and think
this lad's not bad at driving. Yeah, we'll just keep an eye out on the small things.
Yeah,
I think that could help. Like, but you were saying to me, was it last week or the week before? No, it wasn't. It was only a couple of days ago, I think. But I wanted to get on to. You were you had a big interview a few years ago with an Irish superstar, I suppose some people would call him.
Oh yeah, I suppose he's the
Louis Walsh, was it?
He's the biggest pop man in Ireland, I suppose. He's a big name in music and all the rest of it. But I have a story just through work. I bumped into Louis Walsh and chanced him for an interview and all. Just because I was only like just just to get something,
Yeah.
you know. But basically, I was in work, maybe like just out of college. I went in working for experience for a couple of weeks in the Mirror, and eventually got kept on. But the first couple of weeks when I was in there, they were like, oh yeah, there's this event on after work. If you wanted to go to it and see if you could get an interview with someone, go down and see what you can do, see what you can get. So I was like, grand, yeah. Went down, basically in Dublin city centre somewhere near enough Busaris. There was this bar anyway, and I went up to it. So basically, one of the Westlifes were launching a single or something.
Right.
You know, which one's the good one? Brian or something?
Brian McFadden.
No.
Arguably isn't a good one. Mark Walsh. He's a belter of his voice on him, but he's not very poppy.
You know the
Shane
one
Foylan.
Yeah. Shane Foylan was basically launching some sort of a single, and he had like a heap of Westlife fans that were coming over. Well, obviously Shane Foylan fans as well, but they were coming to basically listen to the launch of this single.
Right.
There was a bit of a party going on, so I was like, right, grand. I went to this bar. It was fancy enough old spot, and like the normal bar had like just regular customers, and they were like, oh, you're here for the event, and there was like a secret underground place where this event was taking place, and it was like you won't know what I'm on about, but it was like in Game of Thrones, the underground kind of big hall in like Game of Thrones. You'd probably recognise there's just these stone walls. It was like a wine cellar of a thing, and we went down there, and it was basically like that place in Game of Thrones, but full of Westlife fans.
Okay.
But
hard to image for myself because I don't
Yeah,
know anything about
it was
Game of
just like
Thrones,
an
but I'm sure there's plenty
underground,
of people that
tunnel
know
of a
exactly
thing.
what you mean.
yeah, but so I went down there anyway, and I'm there on my own. Like obviously, I'm doing it for work or whatever, and I don't really care for your man filing at all. So I'm like, yeah, this is a bit of crack, whatever. I went
Yeah,
there.
you're not fangirling over him like.
No, but there was literally like 50 people to 100 people, and they were all in groups of friends and stuff, really excited about your man arriving. He hadn't arrived yet, and they were just getting hyped up, and they were all like singing Westlife songs and getting chants going on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, this is a bit mad. Like what am I
Where
doing
am
here?
I?
Like this is just fucking shite. Like.
Yeah.
But so I stood over, actually, like these barrels that we're at now. There was just a random barrel. I was just standing at that, and I was just on the phone chilling out, and I was just waiting for the whole thing to start. And Shane Foylan got up on stage then from a back room, started blaring out a few tunes. I was like, jeez, fair play to him.
Was he
Like,
good?
Yeah, he's good, and he threw out a few oldies as well, the Westlife songs, and they were all belting it.
Yeah.
But then I was standing at the very back of the room, and all the fans now were squeezed up to the stage to try and get in nice and close. And he was just one man and a guitar, a little stool, and they were all loving it. Like it was actually good crack if you were a big fan. Like
Yeah.
nice and intimate gig. Like, but basically at the very back of the room, I was chilling, and there was a load of these like kind of music people, like people who knew him and people who were like in the music scene who weren't like there for fans. They were there like because they're the behind the scenes people.
Yeah.
And there's Louis Walsh in the middle of them all. I was like, alright, I'll get on to
Yeah,
Louis
interview
there.
with
He's
him.
obviously here managing Shane. I can try and get Shane then after if Shane's available to have a chat, and I might have a chat with Louis as well. See if like I get some sort of an interview, because there's no point just being there and not having anything like to quote or whatever at the end. So I went over to Louis anyway. I was like, all right, Louis, how's it going? Just Andrew Byrne here with the Irish Mirror. Do you mind if you'd have a chat, like an interview maybe on camera? I had the phone there like on this like stick of a yoke. I was just like like videoing him from the stick, and I was like, he was like, yeah, geez, no bother. And before the interview started and all, he's like, geez, I don't recognise you, because like obviously he'd know all the showbiz reporters and stuff in Ireland. There's a small group of them, so he'd be like, geez, I don't recognise you, how's it going? I was like, yeah, like I'm literally a couple of weeks out of college, like, or whatever. It's good to get something like this, isn't it? I was just general chit chat, and he was like, oh yeah, what was he saying? Oh yeah, geez, nice to meet you. Good Carlow accent, or it's just a good culture accent you have on you. It's good to get the cultures into journalism. There's too many bleeding dubs around and all. He's from Mayo, like, or whatever, so he was having a bit of crack with that. But then he goes, and tell me, like, is this your passion? Like, is this what you really are into? Like, I was like, I didn't really know what he meant by that. I was like, what do you mean? Like, I was like, like journalism or like that? And he goes, yeah, like, is this your passion? I was like I'm into the video journalism and stuff, so I'm like, oh yeah, like I want to get down into doing documentaries and different things like that.
What do you want me to say, Louis? I'll say whatever you want me to say.
Like, what's the answer you want? And I'll give it to you, like, just what do you want me to say? But he was like, what else are you into? Like, outside of this, are you into doing that? And then I was like, I didn't realise until afterwards. So basically, I did the whole interview with him, but I didn't realise until afterwards. Louis Walsh was trying to get me into a boy band.
And if you're out there, Louis, he is a fantastic singer. Did he ask you, could you sing or something?
Yeah, he was just
Can
like,
you sing? Do you like music?
Or music, right? And like, and I was like, I don't really like music that much. Like, I'm just like, yeah, sure.
He'd back you up because you're Irish. He's like,
that's
yo,
he's
and
he
Irish.
likes the accent, and he's Irish.
You're going to be a star.
Yeah. But so basically, I didn't realize until after. But he was like really like getting like asking me personal questions and all. I was like, is this like what Louis does to every guy? But he was flirting away with me anyway. But so I was like, did the interview with him and all. And then at the end of the interview, he was like, I was just out of journalism. Like, I didn't know actually how to conduct a proper interview like on the scene, like first time really doing it properly, and I didn't really know a story if it hit me in the face. But sure, Louis Walsh then, like, literally I was asking him these basic questions and he throws it out to me and he just answers the question. He goes, and I've got an exclusive for you and you're the first person to know. And I was just like, oh, all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, and he goes, we're going to start a new show and it's going to be on Irish television and we're not sure on the name yet, but we're fairly sure it's going to be Ireland's Got Talent or whatever. I was like, oh, cool. Like, I don't give a shite. Like, I was like, that's not for me. Like, I don't really care.
But that's
at the time, like, that was like literally a huge story, just basically pieing me in the face, and I was just like, oh, all right. And sure, I ended
You
up,
didn't probably ask any follow-up questions, Anna.
I was just like, all right, should we leave it at that? So, but that was really sound of him. And then I basically then didn't even realise. So I text back to the office. I was like, oh, like, Louis after saying this, like, he says, like, there's going to be Ireland's Got Talent, and they were like, oh yeah, do you want to write it up? And I was like, oh yeah, sure. Sent it in, and don't even think it got used after, because they were probably like, this young lad's in like a week, and he's throwing stories that definitely can't be true, and if we publish it and it's not true, we'll be in the shit for it. But basically, yeah, that happened. And then afterwards I was like, I was just chatting to him. I was like, oh, sound. And he goes, here, I'll give you my number if you want, and if you ever have any other interviews you need, give me a call and all. So I have Louis Walsh's number there. I haven't 3 years ago that this was, and I haven't gone near it, but I don't know, like, I'm not really into the showbiz ran. Like, I like kind of current affairs sort of crack, but at the same time, it's just a funny story to tell, isn't it?
Yeah, Louis Walsh is fairly famous, like, and
yeah,
you know,
he's sound lad though as well. He was solid enough, like.
Cool. So, like, look, we're getting we're about to shite out with this episode, I'd say, for shy talk. So I'd say you probably wouldn't be. We could wind down if you like. Yeah,
we wind down because we're hitting the hour really at this stage. So just another shout out to Thrive. Do you want to mention the owners and stuff, and just give them another great shout out for letting us in here? And
like, look, Oisin came in there, like, this is Thrive isn't normally open of a Sunday, and we're here Sunday afternoon. Basically, we're after, he's after showing us the differences of, different espressos and how to make them. He showed us all about how to make an espresso, to do latte art, like, in behind the scenes. Like, we are, doing a bit of shy talk in the cafe, but, like, he's after welcoming us in there and showing us how they work and what they do on a daily basis. So we really appreciate it. Yeah, and he showed us basically the difference between, like, if you use the machine and it messes up the coffee a bit, the taste differences. So we had, like, some taste tests of, like, what the different things, basically, if you mess up or if you overburn the coffee a bit, the different taste differences. And he is basically like, some cafes will just throw that out and just, like, and put milk over, put the latte, throw it out in a latte and put the milk over it and hide it with the milk, like. And whereas, like, here in the Thrive Cafe, I think, I can confidently say after about 3 or 4 different coffees we've had that they put care and attention into each cup, and I think that's definitely something. And the food is obviously the big thing in here. Yeah, like, and like, that's the thing as well. Like, they're they put so much care and attention into their coffee, but like their food is why you come here. Like, so definitely. Now, obviously, because there's no chef or anything working here today, we haven't sampled anything yet. But like we got those coconut protein balls, and they are absolutely delicious. And there's no sugar in them. You know, they're reasonably healthy. So come to Tribe Cafe. We're just asking Oisín how busy they are on the weekends. He said definitely book a table. You might get lucky if you walk in, but you're better off giving them a quick call. Likewise, there, just shout out their socials. It's simple as Tribe Cafe. You'll find them on Instagram, and. Yeah,
and shout out our socials. Thanks a million for following the page. The Instagram seems to be the biggest driver for us for the podcast, so we're going to try and keep that kind of updated as much as possible. So please follow us on Instagram on @_the Latte Show. And please follow us on Spotify, follow us on iTunes, follow us on YouTube as well. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, and
tell your friends.
Tell your friends about us. Pass on the podcast if you think it's anyway interesting. Let us know if there's a cafe that you really love and you really like what they're doing. And we'll try and promote what they're doing as well. We'll try and get to anywhere in the country, to be honest. We'd love to get
to all the cafes out there. Slide into our DMs and we'll be happy to
slide
respond.
into the DMs and we'll flirt away with you and we'll throw you up on the story. And we'll get your brand out there.
Yeah, it's free advertisement,
and we're just doing it for the crack.
It's a win-win for us if you let us in, and hopefully we can maybe promote your own cafe as well. So
yeah, so really about that. Thanks a million for listening again. See you next week, or possibly the week after. I don't know. Good luck.
See. Bye.
See ya. Bye.